Christians, 1 Corinthians 14, verse 32. This is an important verse to understand. It says, and the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. Which means that the prophets who have been gifted by God, miraculously gifted, their gifts are subject to them. In other words, they have control over it. The gifts or the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. That means that their gifts are subject to their control. They are not ecstatic. They are not accidental. They are not haphazard. They are under the control of the prophet, to be utilized at will and to be utilized under control. And then in verse 33, the apostle says, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints. This verse really here, verse 33, for God is not the author of confusion. This right here is the centerpiece on the mantle, as it were, of the entirety of 1 Corinthians 14. That God is not an author of confusion. This is what is important. Everything that he has outlined in this chapter thus far, he is trying to communicate this point, that God is not the author of confusion, which means if there is confusion, particularly and especially when it comes to tongues and all the babble that was going on in the Corinthian church, Paul is saying that if there is confusion, that is not coming from God. So when people ask me today about their speaking in tongues and they say, well, if you don't think this is coming from God, then where is it coming from? It's only coming from one other place. Satan. Satan subjecting you to his trickery. No one today is speaking in tongues. No one's a prophet or an apostle today. No one is turning water into wine, walking on water, getting bit by snakes and living, and healing the blind and healing the paralytic and these kinds of things. No one is doing this today by the supernatural hand of God. No one is suspending the natural order anymore at the hand of God, because the word of God gives us everything that we need for growth and to be thoroughly furnished as a Christian.